The Cayman GT4 holds a special place in Porsche's lineup compared to its more compact GT3 big sister, more balanced because of the mid-engine,
and offers almost the same sensations for a third of the price less. Will she be the best Porsche for driving pleasure? The GT4 is intended to be a racing version, one that focuses everything on driving pleasure. In short, the equivalent of the Porsche GT4 is very
special also because the Cayman now mounts turbocharged 4 cylinders, and this one has the classic aspirated Flex X among other 4000, and it comes from the one in the new Centro Unici, and then it's the sportiest, most extreme version. In fact, it's called GT4, kind of like the GT3 for the new Centro Unici. It is the beastiest in the range without a doubt, but you can see its intent already from the fabric door handles.
different from the restrained seats, the Alcantara. I mean, it's a very racing interior. The sound deadening panels have been removed. There is a subtle trim. There is the carboceramic Franit system derived from that of the GT4.
Here, speaking of the new Centro Unici, we made the comparison with the GT3. The 4000 engine is derived from the one in the new Centro Unici, and then we have a manual transmission, which we'll see later as
420 horsepower, 420 Nm of torque. Maximum torque is at 5,000 RPM, horsepower at 7,006, so very high. Left key, foot on the clutch, and we start this flat 6. Into first gear. Starting it is so easy, easier than with a gorge.
it goes. The gearbox has a mechanical but nice resistance. It's not hard, it's mechanical, it's very short throw.
Like that of an MX-5, but still a little lighter maybe. And then from the very first meters compared to the standard GT4, there is a greater sense of connection with the road, with the car. You feel the vibrations more, you feel the transmission noise. This car makes you feel the whole road much more. Yes,
it's not the classic exhaust noise, it's really the mechanical noise that goes into the cabin, but we hear the Flex X noise.
$8,000. Limiter.
$137 kilometers per hour in second gear. Yes.
So the long ratios, that's the first point I would touch. It's true you can have it even with the PDK.
The PDK always gives you the right RPM in the sense that you are never under torque, whereas with the manual it exceeds that of the best performance of the PDK.
You criticize a little bit of performance, but you have a greater sense of connection, which is the best thing about this car. That's what it gives you.
It feels so much smaller and more compact than its exterior dimensions, and then you really feel it sewn to you. I mean, it can do everything with it, make a clean drive, send it sideways. Yes, and then...
Sideways, it's really a toy.
A hand. Compared to the new Centro Unici, which has a lot of weight behind it and therefore has more grip and is more nervous when it starts, this one is really super balanced. Beautiful.
You can do the automatic doubling if you don't want to make attack points but the pedals are put perfectly to make a point of attack. And then this steering is not hyper direct, but it's linear. Well, I would say at this point I could pass it to you so you continue. Perfect.
How much I like this Alcantara steering wheel with the viewfinder and no buttons, but what I like even more is this engine.
So, if I really have to give you a criticism, there's not that much racket coming out of the exhaust. It's more of a metallic noise. It's not a car that wants to glamorize with special effects. It's a car. It's a professional object.
Exactly what I like. It doesn't have the exhaust designed to make the noise. It doesn't have the sport button. It's always in sport.
This car pushes.
That's right. That's it. One of the things that strikes me is that down to 5,000 RPM, it's very elastic, but it really pushes very little. Yes.
Yes, it pushes very little even for the long ratios. The 137 kilometers per hour in seconds is really a lot. Does it penalize, in your opinion, the driving pleasure to this thing?
No, in my opinion, it is the unza, precisely because it is not a car. So, let's face it, the turbocharged four-cylinder might seem more lively, more exploitable for people who are not maybe a driver, a driving ace. Sure, you have more torque. You would accelerate the torque right away. Here instead, you are maybe a little bit disappointed. But if you're an enthusiast though, it's great to have to keep the engine up all the time to go fast.
Absolutely. If we want to compare it to the GT3 engine, this one is a little less wild. It may be that lack of 10 RPM, but I was expecting a GT3 engine to be a little smaller. But no, a little rounder engine, still rabid at the top, but not as wild.
The beauty of this Cayman is that maybe as soon as you use it, you say it lacks a little bit of torque, a little bit of thrust. The more you use it instead, the more you fall in love with it. You really feel it as if it's an extension of your hands, of your feet.
It's amazing. And that's the biggest difference from a regular 718. It's not just having the 6 cylinders instead of 4, but it's really the sense of connection, the feelings it gives you. And then, by the way, we also have settings. We never use the passive suspension in track mode because on the road we really never felt the need. It doesn't make sense. It's really kind of stiff. And then, no ESC and traction control, you can't just take off traction. Either you take off SP or you take off both. And this is very professional as a setup. How well you can adjust the throttle in...
When hands through the car, that's the magic of the aspirated. Never like with the aspirated can you do this work, put the car through, keep it there, because you can dose to the...
This section, I am moved, I swear I am moved by this GT3. By the way, I knew we were going to experience something special. However, after a few days, I am just in love. We come to the conclusion it is the best Porsche to drive.
Perfect. Absolute. The comparison with the 911 comes automatically. It comes naturally. In the meantime, I will delight you a little more. The real difference is really in the balance. This one has a lot of balance. It's a crazy toy. It's so much fun doing these jobs.
But also on the track, because it's so balanced, it has such a precise front end. It never jerks under braking. It's really a blade.
By definition, the mid-engine is ideal for the track. The Carrera, on the other hand, has a different driving style.
Carrera is harder to drive, absolutely, because of the rear engine. It has an even nastier engine racing. With 1,000 more revs, it's more challenging, that's it. It's a little more rewarding to take to the limit, though, maybe because of that. Because it's unbalanced, it's difficult. This one is really wonderful doing these traverses with a GTV you can do, but they don't come as natural. There's so much weight behind it. Another point to consider is the price, because it is a third less than the GT3. We are still talking about the GT3 MKY, the 4,500 horsepower, because right now the new GT3 has yet to come out. This one costs a little over 100,000, while the GT3 costs 150.
Here, you have to consider that there is also a less extreme, less racing version, but still with 4,000 naturally aspirated, which is the GTS.
That's right, the GTS that until recently had the 4-cylinder 2005 turbo with 365 horsepower. Now instead, there is also with the 4,000, this one with 20 less horsepower, and it costs about 86,000 euros.
So, 400 round horsepower, 86,000, okay, less racing, doesn't give the same feeling as this one. However, it is a model to consider.
If you enjoyed our test, as always, we invite you to like, subscribe to our channel.
And then we want to know what you think of this engine that goes up to 80 RPM below in the comments.